Well, hello and welcome to the National Qigong Association's QiTalks. Today is April 14th, 2016, and I'm your host, Vicki Della Gioio. I'd like to thank you for choosing to take some time out of your evening to join us here on QiTalks. In a few moments, I'm going to be introducing this evening's guest, Harleen Goldschmidt, who's a psychotherapist, faculty member at the Center for Psychotherapy and Psychoanalysis of New Jersey, Qigong instructor, medical Qigong practitioner, and much more. But before I do, let me give you a special warm welcome to those of you who are new to QiTalks and to give you a little bit of information about how this evening's class is going to go. Just for those of you who don't quite know the process or what the outline is. So first of all, let me tell you that QiTalks is a monthly teleclass. It's sponsored by the National Qigong Association, which is a member organization providing information, resources, networking, and community building for Qigong professionals as well as for the general population. Qi practitioners, people who are curious about Qi practice, all of that. So as a lot of you know, we sponsor national, regional, and local conferences and events, including regional events across the United States. Plus, there's one that's coming up soon on April 30th for World Tai Chi Qigong Day. There'll be events happening all across the country this year, so please check our website at qa.org to get more information about that or contact our office. QiTalks is a series, basically, of virtual classes that are free to you, to the general public, as part of our goal to educate people about the benefits of practicing Qigong. These calls are part interview, they're part audience participation, so I hope that you'll stay on for the whole call because we will be opening up for Q&A a little bit later. And to entice you to stay on, as usual, both Harleen and I have some special offers for you. So as you've no doubt heard through the mechanized announcement when I started the call, your line is muted for the moment. And we do this to minimize static and to protect the sound quality. For those of you who are on early, you probably heard it started to get pretty muddy. So that's why I do it. But as always, I want to assure you, we want you to have your voice. We don't want to mute you in general. In fact, your questions and your experiences, your personal observations, your comments, all of that are really instrumental, in my opinion, to what makes QiTalks work as well as it does. So let me tell you about how you can participate and how it's all going to go. So the first way you can participate, if while we're talking you have a question or a comment that you'd like to offer, you can let me know by pressing *6 on your phone. And when you do, that's going to pop up on my computer. I'm monitoring this call through their website, through this conference call's website, and I can unmute you, particularly when we get to the Q&A part of the session. But you don't have to wait to Q&A to let me know that you want to speak. Just press *6, and if it's something that we're talking about that's interruptible, I'll unmute you, or else I'll be sure that to unmute you during the Q&A. So whenever it occurs to you, just go ahead, press *6, and you'll be put into a first-come, first-serve line of people who are wanting to speak. The second way that you can participate is send an email to QiTalks, that's QiTalks, at nqa.org, and I'll look out for your email. I'm monitoring everything here. I was talking to Harleen before. I feel sometimes like I'm juggling several plates at once, and it's kind of a fun thing. But I'll look for you if you feel like you don't want to speak through the phone or for some reason it's not working. Go ahead and shoot me an email. I'll be able to ask your question for you. If you prefer to have your name not acknowledged, do mention in your email, and I can just ask your question without naming who you are. Otherwise, I'd like to acknowledge your name. The third way is to comment on Facebook. We're always looking at your posts. Making comments is a great way to share your thoughts about what we're speaking about, and you can do that by going to facebook.com/national.qigong, and that's QiGong.association. Whichever way you choose to do it, whether it's pressing *6 and speaking or sending me an email or commenting on Facebook, please do think about participating. We love it when you do, and we love hearing your voice and love engaging with you. Plus, when you bring up an observation or a question, I find that often what that does is it elevates our discussion. It takes it to a whole new level. Plus, it's a great way to connect personally with our guests. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker tonight, Harleen Goldschmidt. Dr. Goldschmidt's lifelong passion for dance and mind-body health flows into her work as a Qigong healer, medical Qigong instructor, psychologist, psychotherapist, relational psychoanalyst, dance psychologist, and devotee of Tai Chi. She's written on enhancing psychotherapy with Qigong for the National Register for Mental Health Professionals and supervises and trains healthcare professionals in medical Qigong. She's a faculty member at the Center for Psychotherapy and Psychoanalysis of New Jersey. She's created a course called Psychoanalysis and the Brain there, and looking at how different types of trauma affect the brain and nervous system's functioning. She's also the wellness director for the New Jersey Dance Theater Ensemble, and since 2007, she's had a private practice in Warren, New Jersey. I think I may have messed that up, Harley, and I think that you've been the wellness director since 2007.
You're doing great. And yeah, a little clarification.
Yes, you've had a private practice.
Sounds all good. Yeah, I've had a private practice.
Where you blend psychotherapy and medical Qigong. So welcome. I'm sorry for that little bit of confusion. I'm looking at a bunch of notes here. It's an honor and a personal delight to have you on the show this evening. So
Thank
welcome.
you so much for hosting, Vicki. It's a real pleasure to be here. And hello to everyone. I hear some familiar names out there, and I'm so glad you're listening in. And then I'm going to make some new Qigong friends tonight. So it's a lot of fun being here. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. So as I was reading your biography, and that's just part of it, I know that you know, it's the tip of the iceberg in terms of what you do. I love seeing how one of the things I notice is your work really integrates maybe more than two large worldviews or paradigms of Qi practice and psychotherapy, as well as dance and other things. So I think the first question I wanted to ask you is what drives you to look at the overlap of these disciplines? What is the overlap, and why? What brought you to this place of this kind of integrative work?
I'd have to say it's first and foremost my personal experiences. I tend to gravitate towards things that interest me and that I like and I enjoy, and going deep into studying psychology and deep into studying Qigong were just two passions that naturally drew me in. And as I became more involved with them and learned about them from the inside out, I couldn't help but notice that there are a lot of similarities and beautiful parallels and synergistic effects of these two wonderful practices. So it was just my passion, my interest, and these two things just drew me in more and more. People I met along the way, wonderful teachers, my analytic community, and you know, people I study with just interested and excited me and challenged me and helped me grow. So that's always been the theme for me.
Yes, and so what would you say are some of the, you know, because that's not an obvious thing that there's, you know, overlap, parallels, or you know, places where they really are crossing over. What are some of the main themes that you see cross over between these disciplines, and why is it important?
Well, I chuckle when you say it's not obvious because I hear that all the time, and it's a challenge for me because for me it's so clear. But I will take a step away from it, and this is the frame, this is the pattern that I see. We're born, we're conceived, we're born, we come into the world, and we have a wealth of experiences in this human being form that we take. And there's a lot of emotions that come with that, and there's a lot of challenges, and there's relationships, and there's all things that we experience being human. And I call that sort of, you know, this human consciousness that we have, this personal self that we develop. And at the same time, when we study Qigong, which is, to my mind, a spiritual practice, it's a way of moving energy, it's a way of connecting to our natural state in the universe. We have this cosmic consciousness that we develop, this big picture awareness of where we fit in, how we're a part of this. So we have this human experience of where we fit in, we're a part of relationships, part of the emotions that we experience in life. But we also have this bigger experience that's going on. And the Qigong leads us into understanding more of what that's all about. A lot of it's hard to put into words, but it's very real and it's very profound and very wonderful and beautiful. And it's just consciousness on a continuum. I think that's how I come to say it simply, that both are awarenesses and experiences that we have being alive.
And what would you highlight as those places where they meet, where these two things actually meet.
I love that. Yeah.
What you're saying about consciousness, but where do they meet in terms of specifics?
Well, the higher octaves of human consciousness, I think we get into the realms of love and compassion and things like art and healing, dreams. I think they're nature's way of helping us evolve and become more aware of what we're experiencing and what's going on in our lives. So I say those creative, compassionate, loving areas, I think we're moving into that realm of cosmic consciousness of what's drawn us into creation in the larger sense.
So as a practitioner, it sounds to me like you sort of have a multifaceted approach to working, say, with clients or patients, where you'll be working with both the Qigong techniques that are coming from medical Qigong as well as psychotherapy, you're a psychotherapist, you're a clinician, and that you're bringing these together within the context of a certain session, or are they separate and parallel in your own work?
They're like snowflakes. It could go in many different directions depending on who I'm working with.
So it's like a toolbox, and you're pulling out the different tools that are appropriate for that particular person?
Absolutely. You mentioned I started practicing, you said 2007. It was actually a bit before then. It was more like the 1980s. But I've been a psychotherapist for a long time before I became a Qigong practitioner. But I do have the dance background, so there was always a sense of having an opportunity to have people maybe do some breathing or visualization or relaxation, other ways to get into their experience alongside of my work as a psychoanalyst, which is to help people really get deep inside of their own emotional experience and do some healing where there have been problems in the past. So I've always kind of paired up the body energy work with the deep integration that comes with psychology. Just more recently, becoming a Qigong practitioner in the last 7 years, I've had more opportunity to help people go deeper inside their energetic selves in terms of, the meridian flow of energy, working with different acupoints, the kinds of ways that emotions affect the organ systems. For people who are receptive to those sorts of things, I could work with that alongside of the emotional healing that we do through awareness and looking into past trauma and reworking it through shared discussion and understanding. So can
you give an example of somebody that obviously without using any names, but that you've worked with where you've ended up drawing from sort of the psychotherapeutic discipline and then bringing in Qigong and how that
absolutely
make a difference for that person?
Because we spoke about a week or so ago, you had asked me to think about some examples I've been kind of pondering. So I have some, at the ready. One person I work with, I'm going to try to be as vague as I can in some ways just to protect privacy,
sure.
but specific enough so it gives the flavor for really what went on with the work. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Appropriate, yes.
So the thing I really liked about this working with this person is that there was an awareness of that I was able to offer both. That's why the referral was made, because there was awareness that I worked as a psychotherapist and that I was able to do the energy healing and the Qigong work as well. And that's what this person's interest was. Some people aren't always aware that I do have access to both, but this person came to me specifically for that. So we sort of had that understanding at the very beginning. And there were a lot of problems. This is a younger person who had actually been on a lot of medications for things like anxiety and sleep problems and mood problems. And was taking actually three psychiatric medications. And I was really desperate to get off medication or to reduce medication. And to fast forward it, because of some of the work we were able to do energetically, and also, she was talking to her psychiatrist at the time also. She was able to get off one of her medications within about 6 months of our work together and reduce her reliance on two other medications that she really actually did need to help her function for a time. So
Had she done Qigong before? Or were you the first to introduce her to this type of energy?
She had not.
Mm-hmm.
So the first session, was getting to know her and understand more of what was going on. And I just gave her something very, very simple, having her become aware of her lower dantian. I think people probably in the Qigong world probably know it's about 4-finger width below one's navel and then back in towards the spine. A very governing energetic area in Qigong practice. It's interesting because when you mentioned I teach the brain course in psychoanalysis, there's a lot that we find out about how the nervous system regulates or becomes dysregulated, and there's a lot that goes on in that area in the gut, in terms of the vagus nerve and the neurochemicals that are very similar to what goes on in the brain is organizing itself within the area of the intestines and around the lower dantian, as we call it. So she was able to use that type of meditation to start regulating herself better. And I waited because I didn't want to throw too much at her, and we were doing the psychotherapy piece as well. But about 4 to 6 weeks of her, I saw she did every day, twice a day. We were meeting twice a week, and she was very dedicated to it. And we introduced another Qigong called 3-path relaxation, where there's different lines of energy that you go down that have to do with the meridian flow of the body. So this is all seated meditation. This is even the moving Qigong I think people are more familiar with, more with the medical Qigong aspects of this work. Mm-hmm. So she did a lot of that, and we focus a lot on the release points with the 3-path relaxation. There's release points at the tip of the middle finger for stress. There's release points with the big toes for things like worry and anger. And at the bottoms of the foot, kidney 1 point, there's nice release points to the earth for calming and cooling for things that feel very kind of, panicky, life or death kind of feelings of not feeling safe. So she had experiences and problems with all those parts of her emotional system and was able to start to regulate herself a lot better doing the 3-path relaxation and focusing on the release points. And then one other piece I added, and this is me just getting started in really blending the two, the medical Qigong more with the psychotherapy. I actually started to be able to read her energy. And it's a technique, it doesn't involve any touch, which is nice for being a psychotherapist because we're ethically not allowed to touch, so you kind of have to walk that funny line. But you could read people's energy, sort of like what their aura is with the palm of your hand. And I actually started reading her, maybe every week or every other week kind of a thing. And I could see that their energy was very much stuck in her upper body, even though she was doing all this 3-path relaxation, bringing energy down, getting herself more grounded. It was working, but she needed a little push. So when I was reading her, I could then balance her energy and bring it more down through drawing my palms down over her energy flow, the meridian flow, and helping her release the energy at her kidney 1 point. So that sort of...
How was she responding to all of this? I mean, was she just open? Was there any part of her that was resistant? Because I know sometimes when you're bringing somebody into this world, there's a lot of questions about it. So was she just receptive in general, or was she, needing to be, have questions answered, or how was her response as you were doing these things?
It's a really interesting question, and the answers, there's a complexity to working with people. Just in psychotherapy, and then adding this energy work. So coming to psychotherapy is a very uncomfortable situation anyway. You're dealing with things that don't feel good. And so just
vulnerable.
Given that, yes, that's the word. So she already was challenged with that, feeling exposed, feeling vulnerable, scared, is this going to work, what's going on? So you already have that in the situation. And actually the Qigong work for her was very calming, very soothing, very grounding. She liked
really feels like a very important point, Harleen, a very kind of radical thing for people who really want to be able to dive deep, who really want to go into their psyche in this way, to be able to do it in a way that's calming and safe, as opposed to one that's just stimulating a lot of old trauma or old pain points. This sounds to me like, this is where I think it starts to be kind of a radical thing, where you're bringing these things together. Why does this work so well? Well, because people can go deeper if they feel more at ease in themselves, because their chi is running smoothly.
Right, and safety in the therapeutic relationship. You would sense that there's someone there who's attuned to you and can help you, harmonize better, help you balance better. So it felt safer for her, that she felt I could understand her without her even saying anything during those parts of the session. And I think she liked just being receptive, because at that point you're actually just reclining and you could have your eyes closed. And it's just very restful. I have a lot of people I do this with now, and they actually just fall asleep for a while. And it's beautiful, because they're just deeply absorbing the energy.
Is the majority of Qigong that you do with your patients, then, does that tend to be the meditation inner work, or do you
the medical Qigong? That's
right.
Yeah, that's
medical Qigong where you move, and then there's medical Qigong where it's a meditation, or both. So when you're working with your patients, are you working with a medical Qigong that's the meditation part of it, or are you working with movement as well?
I do some movement. I mean, I have the dance background, so it's very natural for me. But I think, just to clarify for everyone, because this is sort of another dimension of the medical Qigong, I was trained with Grandmaster Suh in Danbury, Connecticut, with the Chinese Healing Arts Center. And actually, two of his master teachers I trained with in New Jersey, Brian Maher and Brian Coffey, in Qigong for Healing. And the method is, where you actually read people energetically and you balance them. As someone would go to an acupuncturist, you could use that as the model. And actually, acupuncture is based on the principles of Qigong. Qigong, came first, and acupuncture was derived from that. So that's the starting point. Then once I get a read on someone, I will help them develop Qigong meditations specific for their balancing needs, and we'll practice that during part of the session. So it's moving the energy internally. Qigong, even when you're moving externally, the whole purpose of it is to open up the channels of energy in your body, in your energetic body, and to be more attuned to your nature. I mean, that's moving or meditative. It's both for that purpose, to get the energy.
Absolutely, yes. So I have a different type of question, which is, how have your colleagues and people who are in the not your medical Qigong colleagues, but your psychotherapy colleagues, or have you brought this into that world through, I mean, it sounds like you have, through your teaching, on being on the faculty and doing some of that kind of work. It sounds like you're bringing it into the world of psychotherapy, and I'd love to know, what kind of response do you get when you bring in what some might think of as being more woo-woo or intangible or whatever their judgments might be. How is that? Have you been well received as you talk about the overlap of being able to move energy internally and being able to dive into the psyche in the ways that you do?
Mm-hmm. It's been a learning curve for me, and there's been a lot of different types of responses. I've been very challenged earlier on, because I think I needed to work out a lot of these pieces within my own self, and to see what made sense and how this all worked together. And I think the more I've done it, the more clearly I see that it's beneficial for people who are receptive to this. The easier it has been in conveying this and communicating to colleagues. We do trainings. I do a 30-hour medical Qigong certification program with two of my teaching partners, Madeline Marshall and Susan Lieberman. And we have CEUs for licensed clinical social workers. We have CMEs for physicians. We actually have CEs for nurses. So it's actually, within Atlantic Health System, for an example, we're certified to give credits to physicians to take our course. So it's getting the stamp of approval from mainstream healthcare, and that's been helping a lot. I started chatting with you a little bit earlier that today's been an interesting day because it's East Coast time. It's almost 9:00 p.m. At 8:00 to 9:00 a.m. this morning, I was giving a mini grand rounds of sorts in the psychiatry department at Morristown Medical Center, part of Atlantic Health, talking to a group of psychologists, and I led with a lot of research. There's an article by David Feinstein in 2012 on the efficacy of acupoint stimulation. I talked about a lot of research that was coming out of China using Qigong transmission energy. So you got to know your audience and how you're going to connect with them and show them that there's some value here. Sometimes you have to talk research and science because they're not able to experience and feel it. Most of the people on this call, I'm imagining, are very tuned into energy or sensitive to it, and they really may never need to read a research study if they don't care to. But I've kind of walk in both worlds, so I've learned different ways to express myself, and more and more people are coming along for the ride. I mean, we're hoping, to have more people train with us in October, psychologists and clinical social workers who work as psychotherapists, and that's very exciting because I learn from talking with people too, and then they start doing the work, and I get to hear what their experiences are, and it's opening up doors all over the place.
Yeah, so this is really groundbreaking then. When you're talking about this kind of integrative work, it's really groundbreaking, and yet at the same way, it seems like there's almost a trend for people to start to look at how to put together these things, draw together these disparate or seemingly disparate disciplines, because when we integrate them, particularly through our own experience and our own understanding, it can really enrich the dialogue. So it sounds like that you have been educating people about on both sides, right, of how one influences the other. What would you say to people who are Qigong practitioners, many of whom are in our audience here on QiTalks? What would you say is the importance of psychotherapy or psychology in terms of people who are in the Qi practices? What would you like them to know?
I'm going to say this. I'm going to say, if we could stop thinking about it for 1 minute as psychotherapy and think about it as an exploration. Think about it as a way of going inside and experiencing ourselves through different patterns of emotion, different patterns of experience. We all can benefit through self-understanding and self-knowledge. Qigong is about understanding our energy flow and understanding, not cognitively, but sensing our connection to nature, capital N. Psychotherapy is a way of understanding our own human nature. People come because they're suffering and they're having difficulties with parts of their own nature, and we can sort that out. But just having the ability to look in and understand. Last year at the National Qigong Association meeting, Roger Younkie gave the keynote address, and he used the word at the end of the talk, transcension, and he was referring to our ability to know the universe, to know what's going on by just going deep within, which is what the Grand Masters of Qigong have done. They were able to map out the meridian flows, map out the acupoints through their deep internal states, maintaining an awareness through meditation and such. In psychotherapy process, the kind that I do, you're teaching people to be self-reflective. You're teaching them to be able to stay with themselves, even through very difficult parts of their experience, and to learn how to tolerate gradually more and more of things that originally had been intolerable and needed to be moved away from and needed to be shut down because they didn't have the support and the understanding to stay with it. But once people can learn how to be with themselves in all different ways, the internal universe opens up because there's a deeper integration of the whole emotional system, which is a very
Makes a lot of sense. And, as you're speaking and sort of talking about it, I'm thinking if I were to boil it down, one of the things that I'm hearing is that, those of us who practice Qi practice of some kind or another, are tuning in to how life force is moving in us, that when we start to wed that with the narrative of who we are as people, that we start to, creates a kind of a synergy or a sense of awareness as these two aspects of ourselves, energy and narrative, come together and interplay.
That's it. It's interesting because we dream, yes? We dream.
Yes.
Even if you don't remember your dreams, every night we have about 4 to 6 dream cycles, and it's nature's way of trying to harmonize and integrate what we're experiencing. It's just a natural part of being human, and it's a fascinating part of being human, that we have the ability to create symbols and tell stories and reflect and shift things around through that awareness. It's very intriguing to explore it that way.
So I would like to invite people who have something that they want to say, or your own experience or question that you would have for Harleen about the type of work that she does, or ideas that you have about this type of integration, to press *6 on your phone so I know that you want to speak and I'll be able to unmute you. So please press *6 and enter this dialogue. We'd love to hear from you. And in the meantime, Harleen, how can people stay in touch with you and find out more about your work? I know you had an offer for listeners on QiTalks this evening.
Yeah, there's a few things. One is if you'd like to look into getting certified as a medical Qigong practitioner using this energy modality I've been talking to Vicki and everyone about, you can go to medicalqigongassociates.com, and we have information about our training and what we're doing. And if you're in the New Jersey metropolitan area, we have a training coming up in the fall. We offer, continuing education credits to professionals, and other people can join us as well. So that's one thing.
So would you say that URL again, please?
Oh, yeah. It's Medical Qigong Associates.com.
Okay.
And if you sign up on our mailing list, you'll get our newsletter and information about our events like that. Now, you can follow me on Facebook. This is Eastern Healing, Western Mind. And I just posted a new event that I'll be running June 16th. And it'll be about understanding how emotions can cause physical discomfort, but then also we'll have a Qigong session following that discussion and working on, how to work with different emotions and releasing emotional tension through the practice of moving Qigong.
So this is a live event that you're holding in New Jersey?
Yeah, that's a live event holding in New Jersey, in Warren. I just posted it on my Eastern Healing, Western Mind Facebook page. So if people want to
interact with you on Facebook, they go to Eastern
Healing, Western Mind, and just
Healing Western Mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when you do that, you could also instant message me there. There's a couple ways to get in touch with me.
By the way, for those of you who are Facebookers, Kim, thank you so much, has just posted that the link to that Facebook page on our National Qigong Association page, so you'll see it there.
Nice. And you can instant message me there. I do have the private practice in Warren, and if people wanted to explore Qigong through the lens of emotional development, or looking for a psychotherapist that does energy work, or want to refer to someone to me like that, then you could always go ahead and do that as well.
Okay, good. So they can contact you on Facebook. They can sign up for your medical Qigong mailing list and get the newsletter. Yes, perfect. And then they can also find out more about this event that you're holding in New Jersey. Is that the same thing as the Lunch and Learn that you're doing?
Yes, it is. It's a Lunch and Learn. It's a friend of mine has a physical therapy practice in Warren, and we like to run events together. So this will be one of them in June 16th. I think it's a Thursday from noon to 1:30. So bring a healthy lunch, and we'll sit and talk about emotions and how they influence how we feel in our bodies. And then for half an hour, we'll do some gentle Qigong, moving Qigong, and working some of the emotional tension out. And you'll leave with a self-care practice. That's
Wonderful.
basically what we like to offer. Yeah.
Okay, good. Now I see that we do have somebody with a question. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, Dan. I'm going to try to unmute you. There it goes. This should work. Dan, are you there? I'm going to try again. Dan, can you hear me? Are you there?
I can
Hi.
hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thanks for the talk. I'm interested to hear a little bit more detail about how you use the acupoints. You mentioned some examples, like the end of the middle finger or the little toe. And
yes.
you also mentioned that as a psychotherapist, you're not allowed to touch your clients.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that work?
Well, like I was explaining, when I read the body, my hand is hovering, anywhere between like 4 inches to 6 or 8 inches off the body surface, just to get a sense of how the energy is flowing. And then, if, for example, I sense a lot of stress, in the heart area, the heart tends to be the organ that is, gets affected by stress, then I might show them the third finger Qigong release, because the pericardium meridian runs through the palm of the hand and it ends at the tip of the third finger, and show them how to release energy into the earth, to have the energy flow down away from, have that excess leave the body and go into the earth, and the earth is very receptive to that kind of energy, absorbing it. It's interesting, in a lot of cultures, you see people kind of giving the third finger, kind of flipping the bird or things like that, right? So it's a natural release point. You could do it more consciously, more deliberately, more effectively if you have a little bit of awareness how the energy is flowing through your body. And if there is stress in certain places, that's a good place to release. The bottom of the foot, the kidney 1 point, is a good place when people are feeling panicky. I will read the bottoms of the feet. So when I'm going down the body, I'll go over the top of the toes and have my hand somewhere out by the bottoms of the foot. It could be, like a foot or 2 feet, because sometimes people's energy goes way out. They're very grounded. Sometimes you don't feel much flow at all through the kidney 1 points. So I'll open them energetically. Again, no touch. I have techniques I use with my fingers and also with my palms to open the energy. And then I could help them to become more aware, and they could do their own grounding exercises once they're aware of what that energy flow feels like. You want to know more techniques? One of the things we do is called Buddha palm. So we'll actually help the whole, all the meridians of the body open up and flow with these kind of sweeping movements up and down the body. And then we end by stirring lower dantian energetically, like sending a beam of light from the palm of the hand in below the navel and just stirring the dantian area. So you can feel kind of the ball of energy coalescing and expanding, and people just generally feel a very nice sense of relaxation and often fall asleep at that point and just kind of let go. It's a sort of a stress-free moment. Does that answer something? Yeah.
Yes. So your clients are learning to do these things for themselves, and they can take that with them.
Right. They're learning to experience what it's like to feel the stress get released and feel the energy flow, and then they could recreate their own experiences through their own self-care practice. Yeah.
Right. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dan. Again, if you'd like to enter the conversation, please press *6 so that I can see that you would like to speak, and I'll be able to unmute you. As I said before, I have to keep the lines muted just to protect the integrity of the line, but we do want to hear from you, so press *6 if you have any other questions. So, Harleen, I have another question for you, which is your own experience, not as a practitioner now, but as somebody who has received healing probably in these modalities and more, somebody who has probably done a lot of work on yourself and done your own inner work. Can you tell us a time when you felt the marriage in your own work, maybe when you were doing your own therapy work, receiving your own therapy work, or doing some kind of Qigong, medical Qigong learning that these came together for you personally?
Well, keep in mind, I became a Qi therapist, after I'd been working as a psychotherapist for about 30 years. So unfortunately, some of my own psychotherapy development when I had my own personal analysis, which I've actually had too, I didn't have that. Although there were times when I was aware of energy, I would talk about energy. It was clear to me it was some experience I was having, but it really wasn't easy to understand it. We didn't have really a context to put it in, if that makes sense. So a lot of this has been pioneering work on my own, putting these things together. Although I have to say, and I will answer your question about my own experience, I do want to address that. I'm sitting here with a book by Leon Hammer, MD, Dragon Rises, Redbird Flies, Psychology and Chinese Medicine. There's a few authors like that are around that have been blending energy work with psychoanalytic work. And
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you say about combining the two, let me just give you a very simple example. I'm involved with a monthly practice group. A bunch of Qi healers and I get together and we work on each other. This is at Qigong for Healing, Fran Maher and Brian Coffey's school in Warren. And I've been writing a lot. I've been trying to write and integrate these things because I'm fascinated and I want to convey this and further this. So I came over to the practice group one evening, and I've been reading Leon Hammer and writing a lot and very excited about this whole integration thing. And one of the Qi healers is reading me and is going to end my kidney one point and saying, your kidney one points are barely open. And I'm realizing, while I'm doing all this wonderful work in my mind and thinking and reading, it's like energetically, sometimes I'm really not attuned to what I need to be doing to balance myself out in the Qigong sense. So I was aware of kind of how ironic that was, that, I'm doing this other kind of work. I need to be careful and stay grounded, which usually I am, but that particular day, I'd just been absorbed in a lot of reading and writing and forgot about my own, grounding. So I don't know if that answers any bit of your question. Ask me again, Vicki. Let's. Well,
I was looking to hear about any experience that you had that might have actually inspired you in your work in terms of, and I did hear that, that you entered the Qi practice world a lot later and that you had gone through your own therapeutic process already. And so I was but I also know that we have another question that's just dropped, just came up. So let me go ahead and unmute her, and I'll ask you the question again in a moment. So Kim, hi Kim.
Hi. Hey, thanks so much. This is very, very interesting. And this is less a question, but more a nod to you for saying that, staying grounded in these types of things are also challenging. I think when we as teachers, practitioners, and healers actually can understand that we're also human and, have difficulties and challenges in our own grounding, that actually is incredibly helpful and useful for the people that we work with. This type of work tends to have a myth to it that we've got it all figured out, that we're all got it together all the time. And we're all human and have our cycles and challenges with all of it too. So I just loved and really appreciated you hearing about your challenges as well.
So I thank you. I know when I'm training and when I was in supervision, hearing my supervisors' fumbles and what they had to struggle with made it a lot better for me too. So I really appreciate what you're saying. I don't know if you go to the National Qigong Association conference. You sound like
I do.
I'm going to be presenting there in July this summer in New Jersey. So if you're around, come say hi. Oh, that goes out to everyone on the call. Come say hello. I'm going to be presenting Friday morning on 5-element Qigong and personal development. I'm going to be using the theories of Eric Erickson, developmental psychologist. So come on down if you can make that. Otherwise, just come say hi at some point during the conference. I'd like to meet you. And you sound like a very interesting person to talk with. So,
well,
yeah.
Great work. Thanks so much. Thanks.
Thank you, Harleen. And Kimberly Ivey is one of the board of directors of the National Qigong Association, has presented on both QiTalks and at the conference, so it'll be great for you two to connect and have.
Yeah,
I have another question in here. Ray, hello. Let's see if I can find you someplace else. Sometimes this, it's just been so interesting lately that this particular conference call thing has been kind of finicky.
Oh.
Here you go.
Hello?
Try now. Hi.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, hi. Thank you.
Sure.
Harleen, I had a question about maybe you could give us a sample of your three-path passive relaxation moving down the meridians, like how you actually utilize that.
Mm-hmm. So the first path would go down the sides of the body, starting at the crown. So the idea is the crown becomes very soft and receptive. It's the by-way point, and you let the energy flow down towards the ears, and then the jaw and the shoulders, and down the arms, and coming out, all 10 fingers, and then focusing on the third fingertips for a while, lingering there as a release. Then the flow goes back up from the crown of the head and down the front of the body, just relaxing the forehead and the face. There's sometimes tension in the jaw, and relaxing the neck and the chest and the abdominal area all the way down the hips and the front of the legs all the way down to all the toes, all 10 toes, releasing out energy, and then focusing and lingering at the big toe. There's release points on the outside of the big toe for the spleen meridian, on the inside big toe for liver, which is having to do with anger, spleen having to do with emotions with worry, kind of obsessional thinking. And then the last chi flow would be down the back of the body. So you go up to the crown again, and the flow goes down, going down the bladder and the gallbladder meridians, down the back, down the seat, down the back of the legs, all the way down the heels, and then the base of the feet. And then you have time to linger at the kidney 1 points we've been talking about, which is good for grounding and feeling you have support underneath you and there's safety provided, being connected to the earth. And you can end most of these meditations. It's nice going back to lower dantian and just having time just to settle in there. So that would be an example of three-path relaxation.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ray, for your question. I needing to cut it off because we are starting to run out of time, and I do want to speak a little bit about the National Qigong Association, the community that, who we are in this community, what we do in the world, and especially to let those of you who are new to the organization to know how to connect with us further. The National Qigong Association is actually a fantastic resource for people who are interested in Qi practices or Qigong. We've got a lot of different branches of activity. QiTalks is just one of them. And we've recently launched this is an example, a very cool newsy series called Qi Tips. I was just proofreading one today, which is for people who are on our mailing list, whether they're members or not. And it includes recent research articles and information about the healing aspects of Qigong. Our research committee offers information and resources also, and we're getting closer to launching a longer series of more in-depth virtual training that will be open to the public and have special deep discounts for our members. I think of it as QiTalks on steroids. So the NQA includes its community within its community, professionals and practitioners, a wide range of practices, lineages, belief systems, levels of experience. It's just a very diverse community, which I particularly love. And it doesn't, as an organization, endorse any particular way as being the way. So you'll hear and you hear that through QiTalks. I mean, I was just thinking about there's 2 or 3 other psychotherapists who've spoken on QiTalks, and every single person is coming from a very, very different place with very different areas of expertise. And what we do have all in common across this diverse spectrum of Qi practice Qigong practitioners is a love for working with these practices and a very deep desire to share these profoundly healing arts with as many people as possible. Whether you, listeners, are a long-term practitioner or a professional, or you're just somebody who's interested in learning more about energy and how it works, I would love to invite you to consider becoming a member of our organization. I think it's a very accessible way to do it. So if you're not one already, I just like you to consider it. It's a great way to become part of a growing movement of people who are advocates for taking charge of their own health. It's a great way to gain access to leading-edge information and resources. You'll have, as a member, you have unlimited access to this call. I think there's a lot of complexity that Harlene's been talking about, so you might want to be listening to it again, so you'll be an opportunity to listen to it again, as well as to any past and future QiTalks through an archive of recordings that's reserved on our members-only page on the NQA website. So it's not open to that's not open to the public. Listening to this again, or if you're curious to hear some of the other experts that have spoken, that you'd be able to do that through our website. There's an impressive list of Qi thought leaders in the months to come, and we have a library of previous calls also of amazing visionary leaders that you can download and listen to in your own timing, and it's a wide range. I mean, last month we had Eric Embody talking about honoring our elders, Qigong for seniors. Linda Larkey spoke about the latest scientific research on the benefits of Qigong. Ellie Drew talking about Qigong for psychic development. Chris Bouguillon on Qigong for vets and other survivors of PTSD. Carrie Sherman on Qigong for kids. Francesco Garapoli on Qigong and epigenetics. Daisy Lee on Qigong for women. I mean, the list goes on and on. So you just have an enormous resource library here. It's rich information, and I think that you'll relish it. As somebody who's the person who's been interviewing all these folks, I know that there's enormous amount of treasures in this archive. So as a member, you have full access to that. If you, in addition, if you're currently a professional member, or if you want to join on that level, you're eligible actually to become a QiTalks presenter yourself. And for those of you who are professionals or who teach or who are practitioners, especially if you're somebody who feels like you have a message you want to share about the importance of the work that you do, I really want to encourage you to consider doing this. It's a great way to let more people know about what you do, so you can really spread the Qi, just increase the sphere of people that you're influencing. It's a beautiful way to do it through these talks. So just drop me a line at QiTalks, that's QiTalks at nqa.org, and we can just have a conversation about what you'd like to, what topic you'd like to address, because I know what you have will add to this conversation. Finally, as an NQA member, regardless of the level, you receive a healthy discount for our annual conference. It's happening July 29th to 31st. These conferences get better every year. As Harlene mentioned, she's going to be offering a very special presentation this year, so you'll get a chance to work in a little more depth with her. And we have a new professional track that's happening this year that should be very, very spectacular. So I hope I can see you there. It's a great place to network, to play and grow the Qi field, and in my opinion, your discount is really worth the cost of the membership. You get a really good deal if you become a member. So whether you're a long-term practitioner or professional, or somebody who loves to play with Qigong, or you're brand new to the Qi arts, we'd love to welcome you in our community. And so this is the special offer I get to make every month, especially for the QiTalks listeners. There's 3 levels of membership. There's general, practitioner, and professional. And ordinarily the annual fee for a general member is $45. For practitioners, it's $100, and for professionals, it's $150. But to thank you for joining us live this evening, we're going to offer you a special discount. Whichever level you choose, whether it's general, practitioner, or professional, you can take $10 off. It makes it extremely reasonable. You can become a general member for only $35 in a year. I think that's incredible. This offer is only good for the next 24 hours, just so you know. And so that's available till tomorrow, Friday, April 15th at 9:30 Eastern Time. And you can receive that discount by emailing us at info@nqa.org or by calling our office 888-815-1893. But rather than repeat that number, you can really just look for us on our website, nqa.org. And when you contact the office, be ready to give not only your name as somebody who is on this call, but also the phone number that you called from or how you contacted the QiTalks this evening, so we can verify that you were really here, and that makes you eligible for this offer. So Harleen, are there any concluding remarks that you have, or anything that you'd like to say as we bring this QiTalks to a close? It feels like it was an hour compacted into 5 minutes. I feel like there's so much more that you could tell us about in terms of the work that you're doing. But are there any concluding remarks that you have?
Well, I just really want to express my gratitude. I feel so happy, and thank you, Vicki. You've done a lot. You make it look very effortless, but there's so much behind the scenes that you really pulled together to make this work so beautifully. So I just wanted to give a shout out to you and let the other listeners know that you do it well.
Thank you.
Of course, I'd like to continue talking. I think just the emphasis on art too, dance and things like that is a real. You ask where these meeting points are of this sort of, I'm talking about this cosmic consciousness with this human consciousness. I think the arts are a place where that really shines through, and healing, compassionate and creative work are a place where we can blend those two powerful forces that we live with.
Oh, I love that. I love bringing in that creative force. That's, to me, such a vital part of what we are capable of as humans. And so when we're thinking about, our psyches and then our energy flow, and then we bring creativity into the mix. And I know, as I look at the list of people who are on the line, I know there's several artists, not just martial artists, but performance artists and creative artists on the line. I think it's so beautiful that you see that and that you bring that in.
Absolutely.
Are you still a dancer? Because I saw that you said you work with the dance group in New Jersey. Isn't that right?
I work with the New Jersey Dance Theater Ensemble. In fact, I'm going to their performance this Saturday at Montclair State University. If anyone's around and wants to get tickets, I take about 6 or 7 Tai Chi classes a week with Master William Ting from Shanghai, and I'm learning a fan form and a sword form with him, and I might have a little special presentation to give at the Qigong Association. I'll just leave it like that.
Oh, we'll look forward to that.
The conference, yeah.
That should entice you to come to the conference. Please join us. We all would love to see you. I know that Kim, who's on the phone a little earlier, and Harleen and I and more, it would be great to connect and actually see one another face to face.
Yes, we actually shared the stage already.
Yes.
With Lorelei. Hi, Lorelei. Yeah, no, that was great. That was a great time.
Yes. Lorelei is here on the line too. Yeah. All right, so I think that that brings us basically to the end of our QiTalks. I just want to thank everyone for joining us for this round, and hope that you'll join us for the classes to come. We meet every second Thursday of the month. Next month it'll be on May 12th, always at the same time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And next month I'm going to be hosting Ted Sibick for his second appearance on QiTalks. And Ted's going to be he's the person who's going to be teaching the special track for professionals at this year's conference. And it was interesting that you began the talk, Harleen, with speaking about the vagus nerve and some of the, what's happening there in the lower dantian. He's going to be talking, giving us a little bit of a taste of what he's going to be presenting at the conference. It's a longer class and going over the whole course of the conference. So his title for both the QiTalks and his presentation at the conference, which is an in-depth class, ongoing class, is 3 dantians, Qigong vessel and vagus nerve, postnatal qi, and gut enteric nervous system. What he says is ancient wisdom meets modern science. Exploring the vagus nerve or the Qigong vessel will begin to paint a picture rich in the latest research into the gut microbiome and the overall health of the immune system and the energetics of emotion on physical health. Very in alignment, I think, Harleen, with what you've been talking about.
Yes.
He says, learn how and where inflammation starts in the body and what we can do about it to age gracefully. Dr. Sibick was awarded the title of Zhongyi, or Doctor of Chinese Medicine, Taoist priest, an 89th generation disciple of Jade Purity Lao Tzu sect. He's an internationally recognized doctor and teacher of medical Qigong therapy and naturopathy, and offers ongoing certification at his Pennsylvania campus. The founder of Formless Taoism, a sect directed from his 2 near-death experiences and crossing over, resulting into unique insights into the spiritual world. Dr. Sibick combines his insight while ministering to mental health professionals. He's also a chaplain for the UPMC hospitals in the Pittsburgh area. He's a very, very seasoned practitioner, very wise person, a personal friend that I care about deeply, and so I'm very thrilled to host him again on QiTalks as a little bit of a taste of what you'll get to see at the conference if you're a professional and you're interested in going into more depth around the medical Qigong that he teaches. So please join us for our next discussion with this visionary teacher, and until then, be well and let the Qi flow. Thanks again for joining us. Bye-bye.